10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Jon DiVito Show. Damn it, I hit that button a little too early. Who heard that? Anyway, hopefully everyone's doing well. We get a little snow on the ground this morning. The temperature's in the 20s today, which is actually like a heat wave at this time of year. And we've got a big snowstorm coming up this weekend. They're saying 2 feet of snow, so here we go. You never, ever, ever get off scot-free living in New England. Oh, and there goes my music. Oh, I played the U sound, so there we go. I'm having all types of boomer problems. You know what? I like that music, so I'm going to play it again. There we go. I'm starting it over. So anyway, things are going great here. You know, as I mentioned, we get a big snowstorm coming in on Saturday. They're saying 2 feet of snow. And honestly, I think that's what we need in this country with everything that's going on right now. Things are just crazy. Eric Kurt, Crazy Train, welcome to the show. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, so I know my audio is working. I'm hoping that I've worked out my boomer issues. I believe so. I got a thumbs up from Crazy Train. So listen, things here are going well. I want to thank everybody that gave me support over the weekend, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit today in a little bit of detail. I can't share too much, but hopefully everyone's doing well. Eric, if you want to call into the show, join the panel, and we'll be getting into it in about a second or so. So welcome, everybody. All right, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Jon DiVito Show. Hopefully everyone is having a wonderful Tuesday. My Tuesday's been pretty good so far, and my Tuesday is certainly better than Joe Biden's Tuesday. My Tuesday is better than Michelle Wu's Tuesday. There is a lot of crazy stuff going on in this country right now. But here in New England, we're getting excited for the first storm of the year. And we have literally a storm coming up the coast. And for the people that don't live in New England, this is what we get at this time of year. We get those nasty nor'easters. And it's not a northeaster, it's a nor'easter. That's the abbreviation. Crazy Train said she can hear me, so that's good news. But yeah, we have this storm coming up the coast. And what we get in New England is we get basically hurricanes that come storming up the coast. And this is a huge storm that's hitting us. So far, we've had a fairly mild winter where we haven't gotten a lot of snow. We have maybe 6 inches of snow on the ground, somewhere around there. Not really a lot for us. But this storm, it looks like it's going to deliver somewhere in the ballpark, they're saying, of 2 to 3 feet of snow. And this generally happens every year. We end up getting into one of these weather patterns where these storms, almost like hurricane season, start coming up the coast. And because New England sticks out a little bit, like if you look at a map, New England sticks out, in the water a little bit. And these storms come up the coast and they just hammer New England one after another. And I remember a few years back, we had a winter where I think we had 10 feet of snow, and most of that came during the month of February. We literally had to have a company come to our house and shovel all the snow off of our roof because we were worried our roof was going to collapse. And if you actually go into the garage where we park our cars right now in our house, there's a crack down the middle of the ceiling in the garage. And that happened that winter when we literally got, 10 feet of snow in the span of February. So that winter was absolutely crazy. After those people came and they shoveled off the roof of our house, we literally had snow piles that were taller than our 10-foot basketball hoop. We had our kids were little at the time. They were sledding off of the roofs of our house and sledding onto the driveway. And it was so funny because one of my sons, Ethan, who was little at that time, has always been a daredevil. We've always had to watch him closely, worried that he's going to kill himself one of these days. And that day he was like, Mom and Dad, can I go out and play in the snow? And he was little, but we were like, yeah, go ahead. Because we're set back in the woods. We're not near a main road or anything. So we felt comfortable letting him go outside. So he went outside and we're on the other side of the house watching TV or whatever we were doing. And all of a sudden our neighbor sends me a text and goes, hey, John, you might want to check on Ethan. And I said, what, did something happen? I wrote back, I'm like, is he okay? And he's like, well, he's okay, but he's sledding off of the top of the roof of your house. So this kid was little. And he thought it was a good idea. And quite frankly, I can't blame him. I would have probably done the same thing. But he thought it was a good idea to climb up on the roof of the house because he could get there from the snow pile. And he went right to the top of the roof with his sled. And he was sledding down the steep pitch of our roof and jumping off the end of the roof, landing on the snow pile and sliding into the driveway. Oh my God. Now that's one of those things as a parent, you never thought you'd have to say, all right, son, don't sled off the roof. That's not in the parent handbook. That's not something you ever think is going to be an issue, but it was with Ethan that year, and it was funny. But I think we're gonna end up. I think I can feel it this winter. We're going to be one of those snow patterns where we get like one major snowstorm after another, and it's just going to be crazy. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. We like the big snowstorms. They're kind of fun, and it was funny. Now my kids and my wife and I have a membership at the local mountain. We have a mountain that's about 7 miles from our house. We live in Massachusetts, but we live in rural Massachusetts, about an hour and a half outside of Boston. And we live right near a relatively small mountain, but it's a nice mountain called Wachusett Mountain. And our kids have season passes, so they go snowboarding here with their friends and do a variety of different things with their friends. So last night, I'm coming home from my son's basketball game, my middle school son, Brandon, and we're riding in the car and he's texting like crazy. So I'm like, buddy, who are you texting? And he goes, I've got this girl that's asking me to go skiing and snowboarding with her. Apparently he snowboards, but she skis. So I'm like, really? So you got a young lady asking you to go skiing or snowboarding. I'm like, are you going to go? He's like, I don't know. What should I do? I'm like, well, if I was you, I'd probably go. You get a young lady asking you to go skiing with her. Why not? Right? So he did text back and forth, but then we found out the mountain was closing early last night. So he didn't get to go. So he's now working on his, I guess, date maybe for Wednesday, because the kids have a half a day of school and he's going to go snowboarding with some friends. And I was like, hey, you should invite her to go. So I'm going to probably get back on skis this year. I bought skis last year because I skied in my 20s and into my 30s. I was never a good skier, but I could go to like a big mountain and get down like intermediate trails, and it didn't look pretty, but I could get down without falling down and killing myself. But I bought skis last year, and this was before I went on my diet. I've lost 55 pounds now this year, and I went to the mountain one time last year, and I figured, okay, I'm going to go to the mountain. And keep in mind, this is a small mountain anyway. I'm going to go on the baby runs. I'll do a run or two there, get my feet back underneath me. And, after that, I'll get on some of the bigger runs, take a few runs there, and I'm sure it's all going to come back. So anyway, I get to the mountain and I put my boots on, and my boots were tight. For anybody that skis, it kind of sucks when you have new boots because they're tight and they're uncomfortable. You've probably seen people who ski, if you don't ski, that do that ski boot walk where it's like really uncomfortable and just not pleasant to wear those things. So anyway, I get my boots on, I put my skis on, and there was a small little hill to get to where the lift line was. So I'm like, okay, I'll just kind of sidestep up this little hill and get in line. So I start sidestepping up the hill, and literally it was like a clown show. I mean, I literally almost fell down 4 times. My skis were like, sliding backwards, and I had to put my poles down so I didn't fall down. I had like little kids like pointing and laughing at me. Here's this 6'4", 275-pound guy, who couldn't even get in line on the bunny slope. So finally I had to take my skis off. All right. The move of shame. I took the skis off. I walked up the 3 steps to this little tiny hill so I could get in the lift line and then put my skis back on. Okay. So I take the lift ride up to the top of the hill, which wasn't much of a ride because it was a small run. So anyway, I'm on this and I'm already sweating because I'd already fallen down like 4 times in line and I couldn't even get in line. So I'm already sweating. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm old and out of shape. So I start going up the lift. And I get to the top and I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm up here now, very easy run. I could do this in my blindfold when I was younger. So I get on the run. And of course I didn't have goggles. I didn't think of getting goggles, and they were making snow. So the snow was like shooting in my face, everything else. So I start skiing down this very easy run last year, and I had to stop halfway down. John Gale, how you doing, brother? So I had to stop halfway down this ski run to take a rest. I didn't fall. I literally made it all the way down. It wasn't pretty, trust me. I had like little kids like weaving by me, and I'm going, side to side and going really slow, and it was just not good. So I finally get down to the bottom of this ski run, and I'm like, Jesus, should I go again? So I decided instead to end it there. I went down to the bench where I put my boots on, took my skis off, took my boots off, packed everything up, got in my car and went home. That was the one time I went skiing last year. Now, keep in mind, I bought a season pass, so I used it one time last year. So I figured this year, and welcome to everybody coming in. Thank you. So I decided this year to buy another season pass to ski. So I bought my season pass. I got a bronze pass. It was like $180. And here we are in the end of January. I still haven't gone once. So now in 2 years, back and forth, I have bought 2 season passes at the local mountain, spent like $400, and I've skied one time. So I think this weekend I might go, and I'll have to give you an update as to how that's all going. So welcome to everybody coming in. It looks like we get a bunch of people that came in. Caps, good to see you, brother. Mr. A, Jess Duck, all my wankers have come into the show. This was a pop-up show today. And before I get started, I've got a few topics I want to chat about a little bit. I was just kind of messing around a little bit, talking about the snowstorm we have coming in this weekend. It looks like 2 feet of snow here in Massachusetts, and we're pretty excited. I had the snowblower out earlier today, snow blowing my driveway because we had like 3 inches of snow earlier today, and my plow guy doesn't come unless we get a substantial amount. So anyway, big storm coming this weekend, and we've got so much going on in the country right now. And I wanted to talk about some of these things going on right now. I just couldn't go today without doing a show. And it just crazy, some of the things that are going on. Now, who saw what happened with Biden yesterday and Peter Doocy? Oh, my God. I mean, America, it's time. We need to realize that Joe Biden is not cognitively able to do this job any longer. I mean, he literally, with a hot mic, called a reporter a stupid son of a bitch. Are you kidding me? I mean, we have never seen a train wreck like this guy in the history of our country. And whoever, oh, Eric, you're calling. I didn't see you. Don't have my glasses on. So, Eric, I just added you in. So, we've never seen in America a train wreck like this guy, like what we have right now. And I mean, the people on the left, I think that they're stuck. I mean, what do? You've got this guy who's running our country who is just cognitively not able to do his job. And he's calling press members, you stupid son of a bitch. I mean, who does that? I mean, if Trump did that, he'd be getting buried from every angle. And you've got Biden doing that, and he's good old Uncle Joe. I mean, this guy is not able to run this country. And now we have a situation where Russia is going to attack Ukraine. And are we going to have Biden get in the middle of this now and starting World War III? I mean, we're not sending our troops down to the border, to protect our country from the 2 million illegal aliens that have come into the country. We ripped our troops out of Afghanistan and left $80 billion worth of war supplies in Afghanistan, and we left a lot of people behind. I mean, is there anything this guy can't botch, right? It's just crazy. Jess Duck, I'm glad you said that, because that is exactly what I wanted to talk about today. You led me into the next section as to where I was going. Is he really running the country? And that's something I wanted to talk about. I had this thought going through my mind a couple nights ago. I was actually on one of my gummies, so I may have had some creative thoughts flowing. So hopefully I can do justice to the thoughts that were going through my mind that night. I probably should have popped one before the show today to help me ease into the creative mode. But is Joe Biden actually the president of this country? In my opinion, no. In my opinion, he is not. He is a figurehead. He was put in place by the left. They did everything they could to get the previous guy out. They didn't want Orange Man in. Orange Man said, bad. Orange Man said, grab him by the pussy. Orange Man says bad things. He's a pig. And the one thing that they didn't look into was the fact that Orange Man was a pretty good president. Maybe you thought he was an asshole. Maybe you didn't like him. But for crying out loud, this man brokered peace in the Middle East. He made amends with North Korea. I mean, the economy was flying. We had more jobs coming into the country. He shut down illegal immigrants coming in from the border. More Black Americans were working than what we've ever seen in the past. We've now brought in this clown. And I can't think of any other name other than to call him a clown. He is a clown who they're trying to tell us is running the country. There's no way. And the one thing I think about is the old movie. I'm sure you've all seen it at one point in your life, The Wizard of Oz. Who hasn't seen The Wizard of Oz, right? We've all seen it. And we all remember the man behind the curtain, right? They got to Oz finally, and they met the mythical Oz, and he was the big, scary apparition up in the sky. And then they realized that Oz was nothing more than a man behind the curtain. And he was the man that was making all the controls, was making all the movements, and he was the guy that was actually running the show. I'd like to see some of you in here in the chat mention who you think maybe the man behind the curtain is. I have my idea. I have a very certain idea as to who I believe it is. And if you look at the way this country is going right now, and you look at the policies that are being pushed in this country right now, I definitely think all signs point to one person that is really the man behind the curtain right now. And there it is. Yeah, you see it right there. John Gale put it in the chat. He's got Obama, Clinton, Soros, no doubt about it. I think without a doubt, those three are behind it. But I think that the man behind the curtain, I would go as far as to say it's Barack Obama. Now, I didn't have time to find the interview. Eric, if you can find this in your time there was an interview where Barack Obama got on and talked about he would love the opportunity to have a third term as president where he could get in and almost be like a puppet master. That was an interview that he gave that's out there. And I didn't have time to look that up. I was on a work call right before I got on the show. But there was an interview. You can Google it and look for it. And Barack Obama says point blank, I would like to be president again for a third term. And I would love to be behind the scenes, pulling the strings. I mean, that's exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly what's happening. I mean, Obama, in my opinion, is behind the scenes. He's pushing the mask mandates. He's pushing the control. He's pushing equity across the country. He's pushing racial division. He's pushing the hate against the police. This is all Obama. These are the things that he stood for during his presidency. And to me, it seems obvious that Obama is cheating the country and has, in essence, stolen a third term as president behind the scenes with a guy who is obviously cognitively not able to do the job and is really not in any place to be president. I mean, if you've all seen, they do a lot of the press conferences from a room somewhere that's located. It's not even in the White House. It's not even in the Oval Office. They have like a fake set that's the room that Joe Biden goes into. And I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to think that Joe Biden is someplace where they have a memory care unit where he's getting treatment and they put a suit on him. They give him a speech. They put him in front of the camera. They jack him full of drugs, whatever it is, to make him the most lucid they can possibly make him. And they put him in front of the camera to give a speech. They tell him no questions. And they're at least trying to keep the illusion alive that this man is the president of the United States. I mean, what else do we have to see in this country right now to be afraid of what's going on? I mean, am I alone? Am I the only one that's terrified right now? I mean, we are seeing a country that is being destroyed. And, back a year ago when Biden, quote unquote, won, or as I say, stole the election, but when he won, I knew that I wasn't going to like a lot of what he did. I knew I wasn't going to agree with a lot of what he did, but I had no idea that this man was going to be this incompetent, this dangerous, and this just in decline like he is. I mean, this is literally, I think, probably the scariest point in American history that I've ever experienced. Now, going back in my life, I'm 54 years old. I remember being in elementary school and middle school. And for the people that are younger, you don't know what this feels like, but that was a time when we were up against the Soviet Union. They were the most powerful force on the planet, along with our country. And there was a constant fear that we were going to go into a nuclear war with the Soviet Union and the entire world would be blown up. I would literally, as a young child, lay in bed some nights being afraid that we would go to war with the Soviet Union and we would all die. I mean, that was a fear that I had as a young child that eventually kind of went away when the Soviet Union fell apart and, you had Russia emerge from their old existence and you had a lot of things change in the world. But that was a very, very scary time in my life. Another scary time in my life was obviously September 11th. What happened on that day was probably the most terrifying and horrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. To sit back and watch as those airplanes crashed into buildings, as people were literally jumping to their deaths out of 100-story windows because they didn't want to burn to death. They had the choice of either burning alive or jumping 100 stories down to their death. I mean, I have seen through the course of my life some pretty horrifying things. And I've got to say that right now, I am afraid. I am afraid. I'm afraid as to the direction our country is going, and I don't know what we can do to get out of it. And the left is in trouble. The left knows they're in trouble. You've got Joe Biden as president. They know he's incapable. If they get rid of him, you've got Harris, who may be even more incompetent than Dementia Joe is. Where do they go next? Who do they bring in? Do they throw Harris out and bring in somebody else as vice president and name that person president? I mean, the left is in trouble. Their narrative is falling apart. The whole COVID argument is falling apart. People have lost confidence in the fact that the government has been telling us to wear masks and they're mandating us and they're taking away our rights. I mean, I don't know who saw it, but there was a march in D.C. this weekend where I think it was, 20,000 people showed up at this march. And you had liberals, you had conservatives, you had white people, you had black people, you had straight people, you had gay people uniting together, all afraid that our country is going in the wrong direction. Here in Massachusetts, as I've talked about, and I'm going to open up the calls in a few minutes because this was an impromptu show, and I'd like to hear from some of you and have a discussion if you guys are up for it. But I mean, if you look at what's happening in Boston, it's getting worse here. I've never seen anything like this. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, who is a 36-year-old millennial, sorry for the millennials out there. Not all millennials are bad, but I'm not really fond of this one. She's a progressive. She's coming in and pushing the narrative. She is promoting nothing but people of color in her administration, and I'm okay with that as long as these people of color are qualified. She has her new communications chief who made racist tweets about Asians on Twitter, and this Asian mayor has not censored her, has not fired her. You had her new equity chief who's supposed to be in charge of promoting fairness. She made comments against white people. She called police officers pigs. I mean, these people that she surrounded herself with are racists, are anti-police, and she right now is still pushing this mandate in the city of Boston where people cannot go into a restaurant without showing vaccine ID proof. And again, I get that maybe some people feel that's a good thing, but the bottom line is just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean you're safe. Just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean that you can't have COVID, and you can still spread it even if you have a vaccine ID card. It is not a foolproof solution into preventing people from not spreading the disease. So now she has people outside of her house protesting every day. She gave a speech yesterday updating everybody on her policies. There were 100 firefighters outside of the building with signs chanting shame on Wu the whole time she was presenting, but she's dug her high heels in and she has no plan of backing off. So she posted last night. Now explain to me, guys, you got to help me with this one. Let me know what you think on this. Now, I'm honestly asking your opinion on this one, to ask what you think. And welcome to everybody coming in. I'm just looking at my microphone and kind of zoning out right now as I talk. So I apologize if I'm missing any comments. I'm not doing it on purpose. This helps me focus a little bit, not looking at the chat. So I apologize if I'm missing things. But last night she tweeted. And when she tweets, if you guys don't follow Michelle Wu on Twitter, follow Mayor Michelle Wu and just go in for the comments. She will post something and she will get 300 comments. Not one is positive. She is getting destroyed on every level. Go in there, get your box of popcorn, follow Mayor Michelle Wu. She has 2 accounts. One's Michelle Wu, the Wu train. She blocked me on that. But the other one is Mayor Michelle Wu. If you follow that one, you'll see her political posts and her propaganda, and then go through and look at the posts that are in there. They're horrifying. People despise this woman. But last night, she got on Twitter. And thank you for everybody coming in. I really appreciate it. I just glanced over and saw some new people in. So if you're new here, please hit the follow button. And for all my old friends and new friends, please share my live. That helps me get the word out a little bit about my show. I would really appreciate it. But now, last night, Michelle Wu on her mayor account posted something. And this is classic. Okay. Thank you, Shannon. I like you too. I appreciate that. But Mayor Wu last night posted. And this one really got me. She made a post. And to me, this was gaslighting. I thought this was a gaslighting post. It was almost like a fuck you from Michelle Wu. She did like a little video post saying, don't forget, everybody, you can still order takeout food at restaurants and you don't have to show your papers if you dine outside. Are you fucking kidding me? Either A, this person who went to Harvard is the stupidest Harvard graduate I have ever listened to in my life, or she is purposely gaslighting all of us and basically giving us a big middle finger saying, fuck you. I mean, who's been to Boston? Anybody in here? Who's been to Boston in January? Raise your hand if you have been. Let me be clear. I have lived up here my entire life. I'm from New Hampshire. I live in Massachusetts. It's a great place to live. It really is. I mean, New England is beautiful. In the spring, in the summer, in the fall, we've got lakes, we've got mountains, we've got oceans. Boston is a great city. We've got so many things you can do. You got the Red Sox in Fenway Park. It's an amazing place to visit. However, if any of you want to come to Boston, Do not fucking come in January. Do not fucking come in February. Do not come in March. It is an absolute shit show at this time of year. So I thought about the conversation with my wife. Honey, we haven't been out in a while. And Mayor Wu was kind enough to remind us that even though we're vaccinated, we can go into Boston and we can eat outside. We can have a nice dinner outside without showing our papers. And the good news is tonight, it's only going to be minus 10 degrees with the wind chill. It's not going to be minus 20 degrees. It's not going to be minus 30 degrees. And probably by the time we're done with our appetizer and we're moving to our main course, we may very well have hypothermia at this point. But this asshole basically came out and said, don't forget, you can dine outside. I mean, is she serious? I mean, did she go to Harvard or did she go to Bunker Hill Community College? I'm not sure which it is. Or as some people do, they'll say they went to Harvard, but they actually went to Harvard Extension School, which is not the same thing as Harvard. So I'm kind of wonder, exactly where she went. But, man, we got so much stuff going on in this country. I mean, I'm looking at the news. There's nothing positive. We got Russia and Ukraine. The stock market yesterday was down over 1,000 points at one time during the day. Thank God it went back up. I haven't looked at it today because I'm terrified to see how much of my retirement I'm actually losing with this jackass in office. But I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do to get out of this whole thing. I mean, I think that the only thing we can do is hope that Biden does not destroy this country over the next 10 months. And we can hope that we truly have the red wave where we take over Congress again in this country. And I think we honestly have to impeach. We have to impeach Trump. I mean, not Trump. We have to impeach Biden. Obviously, they fucking impeached Trump God knows how many times, and they probably try to do it again. But we need to impeach Biden and get him the hell out of office. And I guess if I had to ask any of you, here's a question for you. Now, if the Democrats were to remove Joe Biden from office today, all right, and they wanted to bring in someone to replace him. Obviously, Harris is an incompetent moron, so she can't be the person they bring in. So if you wanted to get Biden out today, who do you think the Democrats would put in office? Now, we talked about earlier, I think Barack Obama is the man behind the curtain. Obviously, he can't be president again, except in hiding like he's doing right now. Would it be Hillary? Would Hillary Clinton be the person? So the gray area, we just had you join. If anybody else wants to call in. Let's debate some of this stuff.
Well,
so how you guys doing? We get someone else calling in, Punishers calling in. So DeGray, what do you think? What's going on in your opinion right now in this country?
Can you hear me?
I can, yep.
Oh, perfect. We cannot afford another year of there's no way. America's not going to allow it to happen. And you got worse than his, and he's in like the low 30s.
Yeah.
The people that are sitting in the people who are sitting on the sideline are like Pete Buttigieg, who is the Secretary of Transportation, who took 2 months off for paternity leave when everything was stuck in the Pacific Ocean.
Is he her or she her or what the hell is he? Just to straighten it out for
No,
me.
he's just a regular plain old homosexual.
Gotcha.
The old school way of being an alternative sexuality, before it went all 18,000 genders.
Yeah, we get a lot of those in Boston. We got the metrosexuals, you call them. We get a ton of those up here. The people
there's nothing wrong with metrosexuals. Metrosexuals, like, they dress like gay people, but they're very straight. They know how to dance. They know how to dance.
Well, I know you, and you were talking about Mayor Wu, a short time ago. I think we know who her mentor is. It's Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, the one who said
oh my God.
She is of Native American descent, and
racism.
Trump, started calling her Pocahontas.
Stop being racist. Eric, you're racist. Stop being
Eric,
racist.
Eric. No, you know what? No, Eric.
Stop it.
I agree with you. No, let me break down for the people that are not from Massachusetts. Let me break this clown down for you. So Elizabeth Warren is literally probably the whitest woman in America. All right. I mean, they don't get any whiter than she does. When you go and sit next to her at the beach, you need to put sunglasses on from the glare. I mean, Frosty the Snowman has more of a tan than Elizabeth Warren. So she is literally the whitest, rich, entitled woman in the country. Now, this asshole, Elizabeth Warren, Miss Progressive, she teaches at Harvard, of course, because that's where all the liberal progressives teach.
Or they call it Harvard.
Harvard. Now, do you know how much Elizabeth Warren makes a year at Harvard? I can tell you how much she makes. Elizabeth Warren makes $400,000 a year at Harvard, and she teaches one class. One class.
Fucking Boston, man.
Boston. She's got a pocket
fucking
car
Matt
in her
Damon,
bonnet
man.
garage.
Fucking Matt Damon's from Boston.
Boston. So $400,000 a year to teach one fucking class. And the best thing is she is for student loan forgiveness with Joe Biden. And my point to her has always been, you know what? Maybe if we didn't have assholes like you that got $400,000 to teach one class, maybe students wouldn't have to go $300,000 in debt to go to college to get their friggin' bachelor's degree in American literature that doesn't entitle them to any type of job in this country. And obviously that's the degree that Michelle Wu got because she's an absolute moron. But you're right. Michelle Wu is no doubt a protege of Pocahontas.
Maybe if Warren put,
and she faked. Let me get this one point out. She faked being Native American in order to get that teaching role at Harvard. And, my grandparents told me a story that I was Native American, and I took my DNA test, and I'm 1/1,000,000th Native American. So not only is she a fucking thief, but she's a liar. And, people, Trump called her as Pocahontas, but she's a fucking liar. She's a fraud.
I think a new nickname that would really suit Elizabeth Warren, as bright white as she is. I'm surprised nobody ain't called her Casper the Friendly Ghost.
She's true. She went on social media to, you want a beer? Like she does it every day. Let me show you how to drink a beer. You don't want to drink a beer with me on social media? Show how hip I am with the younger generation? She's a shit show. She's going to be in for a surprise when she realizes that her checks are not going to be $400,000 a year because they're paying student loan forgiveness and free college. And she's pretty much teaching for free. I bet she doesn't do that class anymore then.
No, it's true.
They're going to bounce.
That's like all of these entitled politicians. That's why we need term limits in this country. You have all of these entitled politicians out there that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. You get better health care than any of us do, lifetime pensions. You get companies like Pfizer and Moderna, putting huge donations into your campaign fund and your charitable foundations. And someone like Nancy Pelosi who makes $300,000 a year but's got a fortune of $50 million. Geez, I'd like to know. I'd like to know who her financial advisor is because I don't have $50 million. Do any of you guys have that kind of money? I don't know how she got it, but I'd like to know because I want to get on that gravy train as soon as I can.
She has 2 refrigerators that are $20,000 each full of gelato. It's ridiculous. I like ice cream. Oh, good for you behind your ivory tower with your private fencing and your private security as your constituents have fucking hypodermic needles on the street, you fucking worthless cow.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
It's true. These people.
Well, and probably another thing with Pelosi is she's probably got to keep her personal hairdresser on call 24/7 because she's got to look good for Congress.
She looks like Michael Jackson.
No.
She recently got the cosmetic surgery, and she does. I mean, we didn't know Michael Jackson was still alive, but Michael Jackson is now Nancy Pelosi. I saw that.
Apparently.
Oh, brother.
Oh, man. So I see John Gale. I see Shannon talking about John Gale. I guess he's cracking people up. Anybody else want to call in? Let's get this panel going and get a little conversation going. Let's have some fun. I get an interview coming up tomorrow, but I figured today I would get on and just have kind of a little bit of a fun show, just chat with people and things like that. And I do have to thank everybody. Also, kind of a serious note, I can't talk about specifically what it is, but I had a very, very traumatic thing happen on Sunday. And I want to thank my friends here on Podbean that reached out to me and showed support. It was very important. Luckily, that situation is getting better, and hopefully that it's going to continue to resolve itself. But we had a real family emergency, and thank you for the friends that reached out. I really appreciate that. So now Sasquatch is in. Now Sasquatch, a lot of people call me Sasquatch. If you haven't seen me, with my shirt off, now I've got no hair in my head. I'm bald, obviously. But when I take my fucking shirt off, I look like the missing link. So when I was younger, I used to go, and believe it or not, when I was younger and single, I know that women love the dense back hair. So I actually went and I used to get waxed, believe it or not. I would have my back waxed at a waxing place. Now, for any of the ladies that are in here, if there are any left, I mean, probably when you hear about my back hair, they're all like fleeing for the hills, like, holy shit, I'm going to throw up in my mouth. But for the women that get waxed on a regular basis, you are fucking warriors. That's all I have to say to you. For women that go in and get hair waxed off their body, I remember I would get it waxed off my back. And one time she said, do you want to try the front? And I'm like, now when I say the front, I'm not talking about the nether region. I'm talking about stomach, chest. So I would literally sit on my chest and get the back done. And literally I would have tears running down my face. I mean, it hurts that much. And then she did one rip on my stomach once. And I literally got like a headache automatically in my head. And I thought I was going to pass out. And I'm like, fucking stop. I can't do this. So for the women that go in and do that on a regular basis, God bless you. I don't know how you do it because it is brutal. And yes, I just admitted to everybody that I got my back waxed back when I was younger. And I don't do that anymore. Now my poor wife has to just fucking deal with it. You know, she's got me now and she's stuck with me. So she can deal with the hairy back. You know, it is what it is.
That's gotta hurt.
Oh, you have no idea. I mean, it is friggin' painful. It friggin' hurts. Like, you know, you like no one's business. I mean, because when they do it, they put the hot wax on you and then they put that little pad on you. And when they rip it off, it's not just the hair. They're taking skin also. You're losing skin with those damn things when it comes off, and it friggin' hurts. Oh, let's see. So,
I mean, if I'm going to wax anybody hair on me, I would just wax off the unibrow.
Do you have a unibrow?
I do, but I mean, I could easily, whenever I go to the barber, like have them like just remove the hair, but it still grows back.
Well, I think now the gray area Punisher, you can agree with me or not, but I think it's important though for a man. You have to be willing to do some grooming, and when I say grooming, I mean down in the nether region a little bit. Because for me, you know, as I've told you many, many times, and I hate to say this because my wife gets embarrassed, but as many of you know, I am hung like a pimple, unfortunately. So when I get out and trim the nether region, it at least makes my penis look like it's somewhat decent sized. Otherwise, I look like, you know, a 5-year-old boy when he just has his diaper pulled off for the first time. So I think it's good to get down and kind of trim a little bit down there to at least make the Johnson look a little bit bigger. So that's one area where I think trimming is important for a man. What do you think, Eric? Do you groom down in that area?
Not really.
No, so you're just like free flowing. You let the shit go down there.
Well, my torso's not very hairy at all.
You're lucky.
But I mean, I probably keep my face shaved to keep myself looking young, and then, but my regular hair, I'm just letting it grow out for charity again.
Oh, look who's here from my brother from Scotland. I'd like to know his situation now. We had
Ram you.
Podcast in, and you know the good thing is it took me like 6 months to say his podcast correctly, so I think I finally say it correctly now. But I liked it that he told us that, you know, he's in Scotland and they do wear the kilts occasionally. And when he wears his kilt, he goes completely commando underneath the kilt. And I think that's the way I would roll if I was in Scotland. I don't think I'd want to wear underwear or anything like that. And I did ask him, you know, what happens if you get a good gust of wind and it blows the kilt up in the air? Are you worried about people seeing anything? And he said, well, no, because, you know, he does very well down in that department. So for him, that's a good thing. But for a guy like me, you know, I don't know. I might have to think about underwear because I don't want to be embarrassed if my kilt blows up. So I don't know.
In Scotland, even their dicks have kilts.
I wish.
So Punisher,
really
what's up with you, man? You've been in here for a bit. So what do you think about what's happening? I'd like to hear from both the Gray and Punisher. Do you think Obama is running things right now? Do you think they're going to kick Biden out? If so, will Hillary be the person they replace him with? I mean, what do you think's going on, and what do you think's going to happen moving forward?
If Hillary gets into office, he's going to be like her husband, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Clinton was a good president, but her, on the other hand, I don't think she's going to make a good president.
You got to think, Bill Clinton is probably sit back and going, oh, my God, I hope she gets in because then I'll get to manage the interns. I mean, think about it.
Smoking a cigar back and relaxing.
Just send the interns to me.
And here's the thing about the Clintons. They'll still have Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, and Jennifer Flowers living rent-free in their heads. Similar to how Donald Trump is living rent-free in Pelosi and Biden, Obama, and everybody else's heads.
True. I mean, I still can't get past how the people on the left right now, they still believe that the left and Biden did not steal the election. Again, I don't think you can really give Biden credit because he's too stupid to fight his way out of the paper bag at this point. But I mean, his team certainly stole the election for him, and they are carrying out what they wanted to carry out in installing their president, installing their agenda. And I do really very much believe that I do think it's possible that Trump could come back if he is healthy enough, because he's not a young guy. But I would love to see them if the right took over Congress again in 2022, like I think we all think is going to happen, unless, of course, the Democrats cheat again, which is always a possibility. But I would love to see them impeach Biden, impeach Harris, have Trump as the Speaker of the House, because you do not have to be an active politician.
You'd have to run for Congress.
Right, imagine that. And they could install Trump back as president. And, I mean, honestly, if it comes down to the Democrats putting Clinton back in, Hillary, after they remove Dementia
There's no
Joe,
chance in hell.
I'd rather have Trump. I mean, I agree. I don't think you can do it. I don't think there's any way you could put him in. What do you think, DeGray?
There's absolutely no chance in hell Hillary's coming back. She is like incompetent. Everybody thinks that Hillary and the Clinton Foundation and Bill, they're corrupt as shit. No one thinks that Biden got 81 million votes. We haven't been able to prove it yet, but if you have a mail-in ballot, chances are the mail-in ballot should be fucking folded to fit in an envelope. There's a bunch of mail-in ballots that don't have any creases, but 81 million people, I'd like the most popular president of all time. And the reason that is possible is because of this shady shit that they did in the 2020 election. And it'll come out. Eventually it'll come out, which is why they want this Voter Rights Act to be passed in Congress so voting laws can be federalized, so they can cheat all the fucking time. Because when you actually have to prove that you are who you are, that's considered racist. Hillary's not going anywhere. If the Democrats have a chance in hell at all, they have to get this voting right thing done. And when it comes to 2022, we're going to take Congress, we're going to take the House, we're going to take the Senate. I saw John Gale say that, Trump, DeSantis, that's unfortunately probably not going to happen because they're both from Florida. Unless Trump claims New York City, then it could be Trump, DeSantis. I feel bad for anybody. If Trump puts his name in the ring, I feel bad for anybody who's already put their name in the ring because they just need to bow out gracefully. But a Trump DeSantis ticket would be good only if Trump claims New York City, which I don't see happening.
I agree. I think what you said is exactly right, where obviously the left, their only hope right now is to pass this voting act that they're trying to get through that's never going to get through. And you're right, because that's their only hope. They get that to go through, and maybe they can continue to cheat like they've been doing the last election and maybe the election before that. But I mean, the thing that still gets me is I don't know how they can speak and say that, okay, we need this voter reform. Again, I don't know of one black person that has been unable to vote or one Hispanic person that's been able to vote. But of course, we do need to have that vaccine ID mandate card, though. So you can't go into a restaurant without proof. You can't order a slice of pizza without proving who you are and whether or not you're safe. But, to go vote for the leader of the country, fuck it. We don't need an ID for that. We will just let anybody who wants to vote come in and vote. And, why would we ever doubt their intentions? I mean, they've only let 2 million people in the country, illegal aliens. Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be down there, the czar of the border, has never been to the border. I mean, all of you that are out there need to realize, I know most of you do. We've got a group of smart people, with the exception of Doss, that come in here on a regular basis. And we have people that understand that this is not just incompetence, what's going on. This is an orchestrated plan. This is something they've been planning. This is something that they're implementing. And thankfully,
this is worldwide too, I think.
Oh, it is. It's worldwide. This is the Great Reset. It's happening everywhere. But the people are waking up, and the people are pushing back, and their narratives are falling apart. Now, what do you think, DeGray, about what happened in Ireland and England? They've said, screw the mandates. I think that's also going to happen here. But people can't sit back and think that that's going to be victory, because what they're going to do is they're going to regroup and come at us again. This is going to be a relentless attack. They're not going to give up that easily. What do you think would be the next step in their attack if they have to back off the mandates and all that narrative?
They're going to back off. They're going to back off the mandates because they're going to realize what's going to happen. Republicans are taking over. They're losing their votes. In New York City, they realize that they don't have the votes to keep the Democrats in power, so they're going to let people that aren't even valid citizens of New York or New York City vote in local elections, and they don't even have to be an American citizen. They probably want to do that throughout America. So you have the Blexit movement and the exit movement, and people of color and minorities are realizing that Democrats are full of shit, and they've been voting for the same shit for like the last couple of decades, 50 decades, and they're still in squalor, and they're still living in shitholes, and there's a crime wave across the country. So they're ending up going to independence, libertarianism, constitutionalists, conservative sides. So they want the border to be open so they can truck and fly illegal immigrants wherever the fuck they need to make red states purple and to keep blue states blue. And when it comes to what they're going to do in the future, they're realizing that people, the adults, know better. And people are starting to leave the Democratic Party. So in order to get the future to be more democratic and more progressive, they need to be more culturally appropriate. They need to wake up, and they need to put 1619 and critical race theory in schools. And they're going to take the children of the next generation and make them more democratic. But the thing is, this fucking COVID shit backfired on them because parents have started paying attention to what the kids were being taught, over the internet and over like restricted learning like online and shit. And we actually got to see what our kids are learning. We're like, whoa, wait the fuck up. So you're not going to be able to indoctrinate them either. We're pretty much, everyone's realizing that Democrats are full of shit. Even Biden knows that Democrats are full of shit, because he was sitting there in his speech. He's like, you want to be like John Lewis or Bull Connor? You want to be like Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis? You want to be like MLK, or do you want to be like George Wallace? The thing is, George Wallace was a Democrat. Bull Connor was a Democrat. Jefferson Davis was a Democrat. John Lewis and Martin Luther King knew that the value of a human being came from their character, not their race, religion, gender, or sexual preference, which Democrats have been pushing for the past 200 fucking years. They can't play the race card anymore because we know they're fucking full of shit. So you could take Jefferson Davis, Democrat, George Wallace, Democrat, Bull Connor, Democrat, Joe Biden, Democrat, and realize that Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican that realized that the value of a human being came from their character and not race, religion, gender, or sexual preference. So they gotta change their game completely. And in order to do that, they're going after our younger generations, because we're the actual woke ones that understand that they're completely full of shit.
Yep. And for those of you that don't know, also, The Gray Area, along with Jon DiVito and The Old Man, can be found on Ralph Williams' new venture, which is Epic Strategy Network, WESN. If you want to listen to that, you can download the app from the App Store. I'm on weekends. The Gray Area has his schedule out there. I'm not sure what it is, but you can get onto their website and look at the schedule. The Old Man is on there every day. And it's really a great little network. You can listen through your app or also listen through your computer on the internet if you log onto their website. So check it out if you haven't already. Ralph's a great guy, and show him some support if you can. But what you were just talking about, and Punisher, I got to say, man, I love having you on the show, but to me, it sounds like you might be like Darth Vader a little bit there. I hear the breathing going from you, but it's okay though. I like it. So it makes me feel like, Luke, I am your father.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, listen, I wanted to, no, it's okay. Don't worry. I'm just joking. I wanted to mention what the Gray Area was just talking about. He mentioned MLK, and I've always wondered why the Democrats did not embrace Malcolm X the same way they've embraced Martin Luther King. I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King, great guy. And I mean, he did a lot of things for Black America. He believed in a lot of positive things, sent a great message. He was a good guy. I mean, in every way, shape, and form. Malcolm X was always the militant, was always the one that the left never really embraced. And I've been doing some research into Malcolm X over the last few years. And I encourage all of you to Google Malcolm X, watch some of his old speeches, watch some of the things that Malcolm X talked about. Malcolm X was more of a conservative than he was a liberal. Malcolm X would talk about the only thing that you couldn't trust in this society was a liberal. He would talk about how liberals pretend to be your friend, but at the same time are stealing out of your home when they are your friend. And Malcolm X was not a fan of the Democrats. He was not a fan of the liberal movement. And it's funny, I've always wondered that. I'm like, why is Dr. Martin Luther King been the guy? Because I saw the old movie, if you've never seen it, when Denzel Washington was Malcolm X, great movie on the life of Malcolm X. And Malcolm X did not hate white people. Malcolm X believed that black people needed to stand up and have their own lives and maybe start their own businesses, and they couldn't rely on the white man, which I agree with. I mean, that's what white people have done, and there's no reason why black people shouldn't do the same thing. And he, for whatever reason, he was kind of labeled as a guy that hated white people, that he was a racist. And when you really look at what he talked about, it wasn't really that he hated white people. He hated liberals. He didn't trust liberals. He knew that liberals did not have the best interest at mind into the people that they claim to represent. And we've talked about this many, many, many times on my shows, where you look at any liberal city in this country and people are brainwashed to believe that they care about them. Well, let's define caring about them. Let's look at Chicago. Let's look at Los Angeles. Let's look at New York City. Let's look in some parts of Boston. Any major city that's run by Democrats, they have crime, they have welfare, they have food stamps, they have people that can't afford to eat, people that don't have jobs. They are all people that have been conditioned to be part of the system. They don't have their own money. They sit back and they take the crumbs that the Democratic leaders throw their way. And in turn for those crumbs, they trade their votes. They vote for these people because if they don't vote for them, they lose their way of life. And what happens when you have generation after generation of people that have never worked, that are relying on government money? They don't have self-esteem. They're not educated. If me and my wife are on welfare, my children see us on welfare. They learn how to work the system. They don't learn work ethic. They don't learn how to break the cycle of poverty that exists in these cities. And the Democratic leadership, they don't want them to break that cycle, because if they break the cycle and they start earning their own money and they start making their own living, then they don't have to check that blue box every time they go to the poll to vote to the people that give them their way of life. And the Democrats in these cities are purposely creating a dependent society in which people have to vote in their way. And if they vote in their way, you get your welfare, you get your Section 8, you get your food stamps, you can feed your kids this week. And it's a cycle of poverty that's been existing for generations in this country. And what did Trump do when he was in office? Trump was bringing jobs into the inner city. You had a lot of black people coming out saying that they had the first good job of their life. You had people coming out saying that they were earning their own money. And what happens when you come from a family where you have work ethic? I mean, for me personally, my wife and I have done well in our lives, but we've done well for a reason. Our grandparents on both sides were immigrants. They came over to this country. They didn't take handouts because handouts didn't exist at that point. So my grandparents worked in factories. They went to work 10, 12 hours a day. They never had a lot of money, but they busted their asses. My grandfather came home with burns all over his arms from being in a plastics factory all day and not making barely enough money to feed his family, but he worked his ass off. My grandmother worked her ass off. On the other side of my family, same thing. My wife's family, same thing. My father-in-law went into the Navy. My father went into the Air Force. They served their country. They worked. When I was a kid, I watched my father get up every morning when it was dark, and he went to work and didn't come home until it was dark. Did my father make a lot of money? No, not really, but he at least made us feel like we were living in a middle-class home. Probably lower middle class was more accurate, but we were living in a middle-class home. I had clothes, I had food, I had a house, I lived in a safe neighborhood, and I watched him work his ass off. So that was ingrained in me as a person. My wife, same thing. Her parents busted their asses. My father-in-law worked for the phone company. Her mother worked at a grocery store. They didn't make a ton of money, but they worked and they scratched and they clawed and they saved and they invested what they had and were able to buy a house, and they showed their children what it was like to work for something. So my wife and I, we're at a point now where we could both retire. We can't retire. Mentally, we still work. We have work ethic that is ingrained in us. And that is not because I'm a better person than anybody that's in this show. I'm not a better person than anyone that's listened to me. I've been able to learn for the last 2 generations of my family what it takes to improve your family situation, to improve yourself, to go out and to be successful. And let me be clear, for anybody that's in here that's struggling right now, talent helps. It's good that you have talent. If you have talent, that makes life easier. If you're 7 feet tall and you can dunk a basketball at the age of 13, you're lucky, and that's great. But if you don't have a lot of natural talent, hard work trumps talent. Perseverance trumps talent. Grit trumps talent. You go out and you outwork everybody because most people are lazy. And if you give it everything you have in this life, you're going to win more times than you're not. You're not always going to win. But if you are a guy or a woman that never quits and gives 100% of everything you have all the time, you are going to win more times than you lose. Now, my point to all this is, I know I'm rambling. I do that. We all know that. But my point is, when you grow up in the inner city, and instead of seeing your parents busting their asses and your grandparents busting your asses, you're seeing parents and grandparents that have been trapped in the system. Do I blame them? No. They're trying to feed their children. They're trying to keep a roof over their kids' heads. They love their children just like any other parent loves their children, and they want the best for them. But they don't have the education, or they don't believe that they deserve any better than what they have, and these liberal Democrats have them trapped. They have them trapped in a cycle of poverty. They have them trapped in a mindset that will not allow them to work for a better life. Give me the free money. I don't deserve any better. I'm not smart enough to get better. I'm not talented enough to deserve better. And I better vote for Elizabeth Warren. I better vote for Nancy Pelosi because they give me my benefits. They give me my welfare. Without my welfare, I'll be on the street. Think of how sick that is. They say they care. How do they care? When you're keeping people locked in poverty and you are ruining people's lives, you don't care about them. You're evil. You're an evil fucking person. You're an evil group of fucking people. I don't care, as I've said time and time again, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't give a shit. If you're a good person that believes in other people and works hard and has, goodness in their heart, you deserve an opportunity. If you are living in the city, damn it, you deserve a good education. You deserve the opportunity for a good job. You deserve it. If you're willing to put in the work, you deserve it. And our government is failing people. And for the most part, it isn't the Republican cities. It isn't the Republican states. I mean, in some cases, you can say yes there as well. But again, we have a system that's not working for the people. So I know that was a long ramble, guys. DeGray, Punisher, Eric, if you have anything to say, go ahead. But I get my blood pressure's up, so I get to cool off for a second. So let me know.
Let me speak for a minute, you bunch of bastards. Are you all right? Yeah. So Local was saying, how you doing, John? How you doing, Eric, DeGray, Punisher, everyone else in the show? I hope you're doing very well. You all right? Yeah. Well. Oh, I'm being banned from the other show, so I can't go on the original. But anyway,
you're banned from my show, brother. You're always welcome here.
Nah, no worries. But I've been banned for 7 days. It's not a problem. You know what? It hasn't happened. I've had a good run, 8 months. I can't believe it, to be honest. But anyway, what I was going to say is in England, on Thursday, they're dropping the masks, they're dropping everything, the test, they're dropping everything, literally everything. Why, kids, everything. And why are they doing that? Because we have rebelled to it, because we're not as big a country as you guys, and we ain't got 50 fucking laws that are different. It's quite easy for us to be able to we're not easy, but it's better and it's worked because they can't, the Omicron, it's just weak and weak and weak. All you're going to do is become, whether it's a virus or not, the point is you can't control us anymore. And you know what? And I'm so happy, to be honest with you. Other than they've still mandated the NHS, so my missus loses a job, which I've said 50 times, but it has pissed me off. But other than that, I'm really happy. I'm really happy that my kids don't have to be wearing a mask, and I don't have to wear a mask at work and stuff. So on a serious note, and I feel in a way that we've won, but I look at the world and you're still fucked up.
Hey, did you see Doss, man? He's shitting on you, man. He said it's always good to hear a non-drunk Caps. Unusual, but good.
Yeah, and non-drunk Caps is always gravy, my furry little American. Oh, he's Canadian, and he's the dirty. Oh, when he says the alphabet, he goes A, B, A, C, A, D, A, A. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great. I love that. Well, now, Doss is from Vermont. So Vermont, I have a picture of Doss up there. He's sitting in his house right now alone in his basement with his Bernie Sanders mittens on. And you have to wonder, after he jacks off and blows his load on his Bernie Sanders mittens, does he wash them? Does he just rinse them off? Does he just use them again all crusty and stiff? I don't know. That's just my question, for Doss. So I'm not sure exactly what happens there. Anyway.
The solid as a rock on.
Oh yeah, well it's like the towels in my teenage son's bedrooms. You walk into their bedrooms and they stand up in the corner on their own. It's like, at least throw the fucking thing in the laundry when you're done, for crying out loud. I'm not going to touch it.
I go to, when you waft the sheet, I go to waft the sheet and in the middle it just stays there for a second, a couple of milliseconds. It's scary.
The gray area. It builds calluses. Yes, it does. It's funny. I still remember. Now this is kind of a offbeat story. I'm kind of having one of those days today, but I remember I dislocated my thumb once playing football on my right hand, and I had a cast on my right arm. And the worst part of that injury wasn't even that I couldn't play football. It was that I had to pleasure myself with my left hand. And I usually consider myself to be fairly ambidextrous, but I'll tell you, to get the rhythm down with the left hand, it was a problem. It was almost like I was teasing myself. And, it took me a while to kind of get down the rhythm of using my left hand to please myself. But the good news is eventually I got the cast off and I was ready to go back to my right hand, skill that I have. But you got to be careful, when you damage that right hand. Now, I would imagine, Doss, you're right. He probably, leaves the mittens off and just goes, bareback on himself. And, it is what it is. That's what they do up in Vermont. There's not much to do. They play hacky sack. They masturbate, look at pictures of Bernie Sanders. That's all they do up there. It's, smoke weed, which isn't a bad thing. But I don't know. So DeGray and Punisher. Well, I get you guys on here. I'm going to probably wrap this up in a few minutes. Caps, I appreciate you calling in. And for the people that haven't been in the Cap show, Cap's awesome. Really funny show. Good show. And I haven't been banned yet on Podbean. I was just banned on Twitter for 7 days, and I'm back. And God knows when they're going to ban me again. My all-out assault on Boston's Michelle Wu is probably going to get me banned again. She did block me on Twitter, which is kind of funny. She has two accounts. Michelle Wu has her Wu Train account, which is her personal account, and then her Mayor Michelle Wu account. She can't ban me, I guess, on the mayor account, but she was able to ban me on her private account. So I took that and made a TikTok about her banning me. And I kind of took pleasure that the mayor of Boston did actually block me on Twitter, which was kind of a good thing. So fuck her. Michelle, if you're listening, fuck you.
Fuck her. Fuck you too, bitch. Call the cops. Can I just say before I go, John? Yeah, absolute brilliant show. Always, you always keep me entertained, man. And what was I going to say? Yeah, even though you're banned on Podbean, even though you can't talk or phone into any other show, if you are banned and the actual host knows that you're in the room and he looks in his listeners, you can actually get requested to call in, and that works, but you still can't comment. So yeah, that's the truth. Trust me, I've been banned like half my time.
Well, you can still share in like shows.
And and not only that, what you can do is you can start your own show as long as you obviously pay for Podbean. So yeah, just to let you all know if you've ever been banned. So yeah.
I mean,
but anyway, love this show. It's other people, mate. It's other people on their show because I'm a bit of an arsehole sometimes, mate. And I tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So tell me, God.
That's why I like you. I will take someone like you any day of the week. I mean, why bullshit? Tell me the fucking truth. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. We don't have to be best friends. We don't have to fucking lie to each other. That's why I love coming into your show. You're honest. You speak the truth. And to me, that's a good quality. So for the people that don't think so, they can all just go fuck themselves. I really don't care what they think anyway. They're a bunch of shit.
I mean,
mate, and that's what I fucking love you. You're all a bunch of lovely bastards.
And you're my number one wanker, brother.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot.
You know what I gotta do? I gotta get you to come on and record for me sometime, calling someone a wanker. I want to
definitely,
hear
man. I'd love to. Just I'll just throw you my email, my dud email, for the one just in case it gets spammed.
I want to have you do that, and then I want to have Baram You podcast yell out freedom.
Oh yeah, you Scottish bastard, you dirty bastard.
That's outstanding. I would give you some Boston things, but I mean, the Boston accents suck. I don't know why people think they're funny. I mean, I can like everybody else. Yeah, I park my car in Harvard Yard. I don't know why it's fucking annoying. The Boston accent. We sound like a bunch of uneducated assholes in the country, in my opinion.
What about an Indian accent? You are translucent, my friend. I can see your veins pumping. But it's one of them. But anyway, I always use that. I'm so sorry. I'm just a dry ass mofo.
That's great. Hey, Miss Cleo, welcome to the show. Good to see you. So, listen, guys, if you have anything else to say, why don't you let it rip now? Then I'm going to move to Eric to let him close out the show. So, Punisher, DeGray, if you got anything you want to close out with, let it rip, and then we'll go to Eric.
I mean, if you listen to macroaggressions now and then, they're talking about the government and all that. And I haven't seen the episode yet where they talk about Biden. I'm waiting to see that episode, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'll be good to see. I agree. So, Punisher, it was good to have you join the show, man, today, brother. As always, it was good to see you. Thank you for coming into my show.
You too.
Great. I'd like to hear from you. I mean, now again, the Gray Area, great show. I'd like to hear just kind of your closing as to what you think's happening right now, whatever. So go ahead, let it rip.
We are on the verge of some sort of revolution, in my opinion, within America because the Democrats are pushing draconian measures that are completely aggressive, and it's not okay. And people are starting to wake up from what you were saying about the welfare. Welfare is not a career path.
Oh.
Okay? We've come to the point where we're at the break glass in case of emergency, and there's hundreds of thousands of veterans just like waiting behind that glass, pissed off. And I don't want to say it's going to be an insurrection or another 9/11 because they want to have a memorial for January 6th fear-mongering against people that are Republican when the only person that died was a conservative named Ashley Babbitt, who happens to be a fucking veteran. But you're going to have a memorial, and you're going to bring the cast of Hamilton, and everyone saw past your smoke and mirrors and your bullshit. And if you keep pushing this shit like, oh, look, there might be 2 new variants in Washington, take your variants, turn them sideways, and shove them up your fucking ass because the American people don't give a shit. And if you come for our kids, Virginia, we're going to kick your ass. Youngkin just dropped the mandates in Virginia, and the school boards are still like, we're still going to do it anyway. Fuck yourself. It's coming to the point where we're going to start punching people in the face because they're not paying attention.
So, Gray, can I ask you one question? Can I ask you one question before I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I have got to go. Yeah, there's a really important question. Why the fuck is it that Canada, USA, Congress, shit. Why are they? They're exempt from the fucking taking the shitty little jab anyway. What's that?
Because they know it's full of
Judges,
shit.
politicians. What the fuck, bro?
Yeah. People that are exempt from the mandate, the White House staff, congressional staff, members of Congress, senators, federal judges,
they're exempt.
the CDC, the CDC, the FDA, the WHO, the NIH, NIAID, United States Postal Service, Pfizer employees, Moderna employees, Johnson & Johnson employees, illegal aliens. They don't want to control them. They don't want them not to do their jobs for the benefit of the government, but the people don't get a say. You should not be independent. They want to take your independence away. That's why they're like in Boston, they're saying you got to put residential areas on an acre of land, and how many people you got to have there? About 56, which pretty much means that they want apartment buildings in the suburbs of Boston because they want everybody close together. They want to control everybody close. They don't want people to live independently and have their own land and make their own farming and equipment and stuff. They want to control you, and they control you through mandates and compliance and vaccines. I wouldn't be surprised if you need a booster to fucking breathe tomorrow. You got to keep getting a booster for this, a booster for that. They might have new variants in Washington. They need to drop this thing all the fucking together and just let the people live their fucking lives. Because if you're not going to implement that on your own people, on your own government workers, but you're going to do it to the people of the United States, we could see through your bullshit.
I mean, you might as well put a wall up and prison us like in Escape from New York, the movie Escape from New York. You might as well do that.
Well, hey, no, guys, don't worry, though. The good news is, I mean, we're safe because Pfizer is going to tell us all the results and give us the data in 75 years. So 75 years from now, when I'm 124 years old or 129 years old, I'm going to know the truth. So we're good. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here, right? I mean, Pfizer, we should trust them. I mean, last year, not a big deal. I mean, they made $80 billion in profits, $80 billion. And, I'm sure none of that is going back to the politicians. None of that is going back to the Clinton Foundation. None of that's going back to Pelosi or any of these other crooks that we have in Washington, D.C. But you're right. They are looking to condition us. They are looking to control us. And the one thing we all have to do, and people that are in the live right now, people that listen to me via download, I know there are millions that listen to every episode like Joe Rogan. Okay, maybe I'm a million short in that whole thing. But for the people that do listen, the one thing you can do is you don't have to be an asshole, but resist. If someone tells you to put a mask on, no. If someone tells you we need your vaccine ID passport to come into this restaurant, fine, fuck you. I'm not going to eat here. Go somewhere else that doesn't require it. Push back. Push back. Last Friday, I went to my son's basketball game, and all the schools, you have to wear a mask, I was the only person. I walked in with no mask on, walked by everybody, walked up into the stands, sat there for the entire game with no mask on, and I could see people looking at me, and I could see some people giving me dirty looks, some people going, yeah, fuck yeah, good for him. But I mean, we need to all start doing that. I've walked into department stores and people will say to me, you need a mask on. I will look right back and go, sorry, that's a mandate. Mandate's not the law. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm coming in. If you want me to leave, call the police. And I've yet to have anybody call the police on me yet. And if they do, okay, call the police. I will leave. I'm not going to get arrested over it, but I am not going to continue to comply because I don't believe in it. I don't believe in what's happening. I don't believe this is about the welfare of the public in America or anywhere in the world. It's about the welfare of the politicians. It's about the worldwide government trying to control us. And the great thing is, we now have tools like Podbean, where we've got people in here from the UK. We've got people that come in from Scotland, from Australia, from all over, and we can communicate to each other. And we're pulling all this shit together. And in addition to Podbean, there's thousands of other platforms where people are doing the same thing. So technology is helping us unite. And I think we all need to support each other. It can't be, the US against the UK or the US against whatever. We've got to be in this together. And we've got to realize that we all have a lot more similarities than we have differences. And I mean, when I have people come in, I think it's awesome that we get to meet people from other places and get to talk to the people. And I hope someday I can meet some of you in person. I think that'd be amazing. So anyway, that's kind of how I feel. But what you guys said, I mean, right on the mark. And for the people out there that are afraid, I mean, I get it. It is scary. It is scary. And don't feel like if you're afraid that you're alone in being afraid, but you need to find a way in your way to find some courage and to, in your way, protest what's going on. If we all continue to go along with what they tell us, we're going to lose our freedoms. And none of us wants that, because once the freedoms are gone, then it's going to require getting the guns out and fighting to regain freedom. And nobody wants to go there. I know I don't. Nobody does. But like the gray area said, people are ready if they need to. And I'll tell you, I was never trained in the military, but I'm ready. I've been very quietly preparing. And if things go down, I'm going to be ready to do what I need to do to help my fellow people. And I know that there are a lot of trained people out there that are prepared. I know some of them, and they talk about some of the things that are being prepared in the event we need them. So rest assured that there are a lot of patriots and a lot of heroes that have already sacrificed for our country, the gray area being one of them. And we are going to have people out there that are going to willing to do what they need to do in order to help us if need be. But, for all of you out there, keep the faith, keep resisting. And if anything, you don't have to listen to everything we've said today. You don't have to believe everything we say, but just don't listen to everything the mainstream media is telling you. Also, do your own research. Like today, do a little homework assignment, look into Malcolm X, like I talked about, and try to figure out why the Democrats don't like him. The Democrats don't like him because he didn't like the Democrats. And when you read about some of the things that Malcolm X taught, Malcolm X was a guy that knew that the liberals and the Democrats were snakes and they didn't care about his people. And that's why he is not the darling of the mainstream media and the liberal left. Dr. Martin Luther King, preached, peace and happiness and harmony, and they love him, and rightfully so. He was a good guy. And, again, the country was a better place because of him. But there is a reason why they didn't like Malcolm X. Look it up. Look into it. Do your homework, do your research, learn on your own, because that's what we all have to do in order to get out of this thing. So for all you guys that called in, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you being part of my show. Eric, why don't you run off some of the things going on, and I got to get back to work. So do your thing, and then we'll move on.
Well, coming up on Podbean today, 3 p.m. Eastern time, you've got the only crazy lady doing her Tuesday tarot reading show, so that should be fun. And then, of course, later on today, you may see Solid Blue Sister and pop up, and then the John Gill program, he goes live at 5 p.m. Eastern. And guess who's back in primetime tonight? It's the Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea in primetime.
Oh, no. Are they both back?
Look out for him.
Are they both back?
I think, yes, and I believe Billy's feeling a lot better now. But I think they're going to try to do
you people that are new,
Thursdays.
if you like Beans and Weenie, check out Chuck and Billy. They are friggin' hysterical. So if you're a fan of the Beans and Weenie show, don't miss Not Your Cup of Tea podcast. They are really funny. So go ahead.
Well, and of course, tomorrow morning, you've got the Ralph Williams podcast, the Unsupervised podcast, for those Podbean early birds.
He's up at 6 a.m., right? Isn't he up on 6? That's crazy, man.
Ralph out 6 or 7 in the morning, give or take. And then, of course, the Unsupervised podcast is on between 9 and 10 a.m. Eastern time. The Old Man's podcast will also be on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Then, of course, tomorrow at 11:20 a.m., the Jon DiVito show will have the latest Get to Know Your Podcaster interview with
that guy, DeVito. He's fucking handsome, and I heard he's hung like a bull also. So don't miss that show. He's a hell of a guy.
Yeah, and I think RPV, like Patriot Mama's co-host from the Real Patriots Voice podcast, may join in as well. And then you've also got the Frankie D show also coming up tomorrow afternoon sometime. You've also got Michael Key, who will also do the Real Conservative Talk podcast, so be on the lookout for him.
Good show. And let me interrupt you real quick. I don't know if Michael's still in here. I couldn't sleep. I don't know, like a week ago. I may have already mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, but he was on at like 2:00 in the morning. I got into his show. They were having a killer conversation at like 2:00 in the morning. So I know Michael's still a newer guy here, but he has a good show. So if you haven't checked out Michael Key, check out his show. He does a good job. And if you're up in the middle of the night, get on the Podbean, because sometimes he's on. And it was a really interesting show. He had someone on that was talking about kind of some crazy topics, but it was fun. So check him out.
Well, the Slack Ready 2 Alpha will be on tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm sure Punisher will probably show up for that, along with like Ert Radio and like Tampa Bay and Ralph and a few other friends. The Low Standards and Poor's Comedy Podcast is on tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't know yet if the Beans and Weenie show will be back on tomorrow, but hopefully Spanky is starting to feel better. And also be on the lookout should the Slightly Serious show do an impromptu show. And then the swap doesn't lie on Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Shannon Lynn, she's going to be doing a show like tomorrow night around 10 p.m. Eastern time. The dude Sean and the It's Doomsday podcast, will be on this weekend as always, and plenty of other great podcast friends. And also be on the lookout for the Gray Area and Caps to do those shows, and Linga Longa and the Kirkley Hennessy show and so many others.
Yep. No, a lot of good shows. And this is for Mike, if Mike's still in there. You guys, Mike likes the baby laugh, so I'm going to give him a little baby laugh. All right, everybody, listen, Eric, Gray, Punisher, Caps, all of my wankers that have been in the chat area, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. This was kind of like a surprise show. Wasn't planning on it. And like I said earlier, for the people that gave me some support late in the weekend and early in the week, I appreciate it. I had a very traumatic family experience happen, and it's getting better. So for those of you that reached out, I really appreciate it. I consider all of you friends, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Eric, as always, thank you for being my right-hand man, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you then. Take care now.
See you later, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Same here.
Later, Caps. Ready to Gray Area Punisher. And don't forget also, check out Epic Strategies Network, WESN, Ralph Williams' new venture. It's really a cool thing. He plays music, got some good shows. Definitely check it out. Show Ralph some support and some love. He's like a Podbean god, a Podbean veteran, and I'm hoping his new venture is very successful. So check out Epic Strategy Network.
Guests of the Jon DiVito Show stay at the All Suites Omni Hotel, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile. We'll do this again next time.
Hey, hold on, Eric.
Come for the pizza, stay because you're shot.
Eric, I shut off the music. Go ahead and do that. I want to hear that. Eric, you still there?
I'm still here.
Guests of the Jon DiVito Show. I want to hear what you were saying. I couldn't hear it.
Guests of the Jon DiVito Show stay at the All Suites Omni Hotel, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile. We'll do it again next time.
What show is that from? I remember that was from a certain show.
I think a lot of the the talk shows like Oprah Winfrey and any other shows based in Chicago would do that.
Hey Shannon,
Chicago.
Do you know how to reach out to me, Shannon?
Stay because you're shot.
Hey Shannon, reach out to me on Twitter or reach out to me via email. I'll give you my phone number. I'd be happy to talk to you. So I think you probably know how to get me. Reach out to me and I'll definitely talk to you. That'd be great. All right, everybody. I'm not going to play the music again, so I will leave you with this. All right, everybody. Have a good day. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.